Well, you about ready to get to it?
Sure, whatever you need.
All right. Well, last time we were talking, we were wrapping up the endorsers interview, and then after we got done with the phone call, it came to light that Vinny Caliuta, am I saying that name right?
Correct. Hmm.
Yeah, he's back with Gretsch,
Right.
and you had mentioned him in the other talk, and what's your thoughts on him being back with Gretsch? You probably think he should have never left, right?
Right. He should. Right. I mean, I think Vinny really likes the Gretsch family, and the Gretsch family likes Vinny, and they get along great. And Vinny's in such a position that he really doesn't need a lot of tender love and care anymore. He might need a drum set every once in a while, but other than that, he's working all the time, and he's a busy guy, and he likes the Gretsch drums. So I think it's a nice combination.
No, I could be wrong, and I usually am, but I think they overhauled his older Gretsch drum set. Do you know about that?
I do not, but that's very possible. Maybe they redid the bearing edges for him or something and changed something around.
And
It's
like I
very
said,
possible.
yeah, and I could be wrong on that, but that's what I took away from the video.
Hmm.
Any other
Yeah.
endorser stuff that we missed the first time around?
Well, I don't think we talked about it. I think one guy in particular I forgot to mention was Jeff Watt. And, I worked several times with Jeff. And Jeff was, of course, on the Tonight Show for a good while. And I think I managed to, on one of the trade shows out in California, managed to get by and see him on the show, the taping of one of the shows. He's kind of not in the limelight right now, but he had a great run on that Tonight Show, and he was working with Branford Marsalis on a bunch of stuff, and he's just a terrific jazz drummer. I mean, a very unique style and very easy to get along with, fun to be with,
Mm-hmm.
funny guy. He always loved the Honer people at the Honer facility, and he came by once or twice, I think, there, and he was friendly with all the staff in the warehouse, and got to be actual acquaintances of them. And he was just a terrific guy. I forgot to mention. I think I mentioned Adam Nussbaum. He's another one of my favorites, and Will Kennedy, also great people, and easy to communicate with. Always helpful with the gear, and making suggestions here and there, and just terrific people and terrific drummers.
Mm-hmm.
I was very sorry to see Will Kennedy shift from Sonor to Pearl. I don't know what he's with right now, but and Adam's played Gretsch too. He's a Gretsch guy. He loves Gretsch, but he always plays Sonor, out most of the time. So
Why is
yeah,
that?
they're. I think that I think he likes the older jazz drummer tradition, and I think since he's from New York, he knows all those old jazz guys
Mm-hmm.
that were around and were promoted by the Gretsch Company at the very beginning of the Gretsch Drum Company when they were promoting all the jazz guys. And being in Brooklyn, they had the whole black drumming community, and Adam relates to that whole genre of musician. And so I think he plays Gretsch on occasion to get that sound, to have that same sound, which is a high tensioned, small drum sound.
Well,
But when he plays out, I think he likes the durability of the Sonors and the extended tuning range of the Sonors more than the Gretsch drums.
okay. Well, back to Jeff Watch. I interviewed him several months ago.
Oh, I
And
didn't know that.
yeah, oh yeah, and we talked about his gear, and I mean, he's a very nice, very accommodating guy. Over the phone, I didn't spend any time with him,
Hmm.
but everything you said about him, seemed to reflect in the conversation I had with him, and
Hmm.
it was a lot of fun. And I'm supposed to actually be interviewing Adam Nussbaum and Steve Smith, but I have not heard from either one of them lately. I know they're both pretty busy, but
Hmm.
trying to follow up on that. But that's something I got in the works, and hopefully it'll pan out still. So
Another guy that actually came around to Sonor after I had him with Slinger was Louis Nash.
Okay.
Lewis Nash played Slingerland. I had him with Slingerland, and then he went after the Slingerland thing was over. He shifted over to Sonor for a little while.
Was
I
that
don't know what
because
he's
of the
doing
Honer
right now.
connection, or did he
I
just?
think so. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We
Was
got along really well too. He's a terrific guy.
was there much of that with any of the Slingerland guys coming to Sonar when
Oh
Slingerland
yeah,
went to?
I mean, there were several. Jay Sinnott out of Norfolk. He's another jazz drummer from there. He went from Slingerland to Sonar, and there were several guys that came over after we didn't have the Slingerland, because they trusted the sound transformation from Slingerland to Sonar.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I had a few other things I was wanting to discuss, if you don't mind, too, while we're at it.
Sure.
Are you familiar with the situation with Sonar switching to the ALPI Veneers several years back?
Which Veneers?
The ALPI, I believe that's a manufacturer. It's a manufactured veneers, as opposed to the
wooden veneers, wooden figured veneers.
right,
Yeah.
as opposed to the natural ones. They went with the manufactured ones.
Right.
Well, it seemed to be an issue with some people that there wasn't a notification of any sort that the production had changed. How do you feel about that?
Well, I would guess that the newer manufactured veneers, the way they do it now, and I'm not sure exactly the process, but I would guess they're more stable, easier to bend, and less likely to fade.
Mm-hmm.
Less susceptible to sunlight and other conditions. So it makes perfect sense, especially if they look sharp. And as far as I can see, those veneers look incredibly good.
Yeah.
Now, I think that's just a sign of the times and the changing manufacturing of different wood products. Because flooring has changed a lot too. I don't know if you've noticed that, but it's very similar in flooring. I mean, it used to be you'd buy solid oak flooring or, whatever. Mm-hmm. Now there's all these manufactured veneers of flooring. And I think it's the same stuff that they're probably using for drum manufacturing. People that are traditionalists with Sonar are pretty much sticklers, and they're used to the old way of doing things, and when in fact Sonar was the only one making very high-end drums. Now there's a lot of people making high-end drums.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say that the engineering behind the Sonar stuff isn't just a cut above, because I believe it is. I mean, it's just like automobile manufacturing. I mean, sure, Ford and GM and Chrysler are all making great vehicles now, and much more durable vehicles. But I mean, I still think if you look at an Audi, a Volkswagen, a BMW, or a Mercedes, and you compare apples to apples, my guess is that they're a little bit more expensive for a reason.
Right.
And it's probably in the engineering and some of the materials.
Now, you have brought up something I wanted to touch on anyway, and that is the gap has closed a little bit between other companies' high-end drums and Sonar's upper-end drums. And I know that back in the 70s and 80s, Sonar was way out there, just, their attention to detail.
The plating was excellent. The engineering, the machining was better.
Right. Yeah. And actually, some of the methods have changed. I'm not saying they're building a less quality drum at all. That's not my point at all. But just, the manufacturing methods are, to speed production and all that. Also, too,
right.
The world just doesn't need a drum set is over-engineered as Sonar was.
Well, I don't know if it was so over-engineered. I think some of the parts were larger than they needed to be. But engineering-wise, I think people still are probably still copying Sonar's engineering on several, on several levels.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they were over-engineered. I think they maybe just they made things a little heavier than everybody else.
Well, I know the signature stands. I used to joke that I could hang a Volkswagen off of a boom stand,
Yeah,
And
that's pretty much true. Those things are pretty. I've got a bunch of those things. I don't know. I haven't used them in years. Well, I have them on sets for practice around the house, but that's about it. I mean, I don't take those things out. They're just too heavy for me. I'm getting a little older now, so I don't want to carry. Even the aluminum stands, the Protect stuff that I use, you put a bunch of that stuff in a trap case, and it's pretty heavy.
Yeah. Well, I gigged with a signature set, I don't know, about 15 years ago, and it doesn't take much moving that mess around, and you just like, you know what? Nah, I don't need that.
Yeah.
And I've heard a few people comment on how heavy the 600 series is, and I guess these are people that aren't familiar with the older, really heavy duty hardware.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know the hardware's still good and heavy, but just nothing like it was. I mean, it was just way out there in my book. But.
Yeah, it was. It was the first of that kind of really heavy stuff. I mean, but Pearl's stands are extreme. Their Pearl's top of the line stands are ridiculously heavy. They're really bulky.
Well,
I mean, much like the signature stuff.
Well, see, I haven't seen a lot of that stuff. The music stores around here, and usually I don't go looking for Pearl or DW or anything like that, and a lot of the music stores I do go to, like the guitar centers, they really don't have a lot in the way of high-end drum equipment anyway.
Yeah. The funny thing was, I remember Tommy Lee was a Sonar guy, and I went backstage with those guys several times. And he was using the Sonar hardware, and I was talking, their roadies were always buying stuff from us for their hardware to keep for every tour, and to keep extras. And I remember when he switched to Pearl, he kept buying Sonar hardware. He didn't switch to the Pearl hardware.
I don't think Bobby Rock switched hardware either when he went to PV.
PV, briefly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, because the stuff was so dependable. It was so heavy duty, and they could depend on it a little bit more than everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But you had to take care of that signature stuff. It had a lot of stuff. Those little lever screws and stuff sticking out were susceptible to damage pretty easily. It's a clever-looking design and very aesthetically pleasing, but in actuality, it was susceptible to damage. I mean, you throw those things around, those things get bent or broken, and you're in trouble. It was great hardware, no doubt. The hi-hats especially, dynamite.
Oh, yeah. The old seamless shells. People have, for years, I don't know about complained, but, the sound of the seamless shells compared to the welded shells is pretty substantial to me and most other people. When I spoke to Karl-Heinz Menzel about it some years ago, he said that the problem was that the material used to make those shells was no longer available to Sonar. But other companies are making seamless shells. Do you have any thoughts on that? Why Sonar didn't change material they were using, or, what do you think about the decisions they've made?
Oh, I'm guessing that machine just got worn out. I think Carl told me that they sent that machine over to China to be used to make shells over there. And they're a hoop machine. But, I'm not sure that really got set up and worked. I doubt it. And the reason they would stop making that stuff in Germany has got to be labor.
Mm-hmm.
More than, although maybe they can't get ferromanganese steel.
Yeah, speculation.
That's possible.
Speculation was that the car industry was buying up whatever quantities of it were made available, and so the price got astronomical. But you can hear all
Very
kinds.
possible. Very possible.
Yeah.
And steel snare drums went out of favor. I mean, wooden snare drums have been, very, very popular now, more than I think steel drums, unless you find a Black Beauty, something like that.
Yeah.
And the Asians have managed to make all kinds of finishes. Just look at Ludwig's Black Beauties and Mapex's snare drums. All these metal snare drums out of every material you can imagine: phosphor, bronze, brass, copper, steel.
Well, Mapex actually has. It may just be one model. They've got at least one model snare drum that is seamless in a metal shell.
Mm-hmm.
Which just makes me wonder, if they're doing that for the Mapex brand. I'm just surprised they haven't done something for the Sonor brand, but I don't know everything.
Right. That would make perfect sense. Actually, you would think they would do that.
And maybe they're
But Sonor's
sourcing.
got those signature. Sonor's been focusing on those signature player drums, I think, snare drums, which are great models. I mean, they're very cool drums. Have all kinds of nice features and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
Have you seen the new glide? It's not new anymore, but the latest of the dual glide throw off?
No, I have not. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I did see a picture of it. That's about it, though.
Yeah, I haven't seen one in person myself, but I think people are liking those pretty much.
Oh, I'm sure.
Did you see the interview with Nico McBrain and Karl-Heinz Menzel? And some point during the interview, or maybe it was another interview done in the same room, probably on the same day, Karl-Heinz mentioned that, Sonor had entered the lower end arena. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
at some point, for obvious reasons. But now it was like a race to see who could build stuff the cheapest. And so they were going to refocus on the higher end German-made stuff again.
Right. I did see that.
What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think that's probably their best bet. Although I do have one of those. I got a really good deal on one of those little 4-piece, not a jungle kit, but it's maybe it's a martini kit. It's a martini kit, I think. No, martini's a real small one, right? Yeah.
I'm not even sure.
It's the one with, I think, a 16-inch bass drum, 10 and 14-inch snare and a 12-inch floor tom, I think. Really nice sounding drums. I was, except for the snare drum, I didn't care for the snare drum. It's kind of the low part of it. But you put any other snare drum with those 3 other drums, and you got a killer little jazz kit. Those things sounded dynamite with the import heads on them.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it, really.
I've seen a couple of toy 16-inch bass drums that sounded phenomenally good. You'd never expect a drum that size to sound like that.
Right.
My daughter had one.
Yeah. I mean, that's a nice little drum set. And nice fittings, good spurs, nice lugs. The plating's not the same as the good stuff, but other than that, the tom holder's very substantial. Everything works great. I mean, and the bass drum is actually pretty heavy. It's amazingly. I mean, they don't feel cheap or inexpensive at all. They just cheapened on the lugs. It's a different lug. It's a different wrap. It's a different gauge hoop, rims. And I don't know, but the drums sure sound good. Surprising.
Are you seeing many retailers carrying them? Local type companies?
To be honest with you, I am not seeing them anywhere in the territories that I travel. I don't see them in Virginia. The drum store that had them here went out of business in Richmond. I don't see them in Ohio. The parts of Ohio I travel, I don't see them at the drum shops. Pennsylvania, maybe a little bit. I don't know who's carrying them. I guess there's probably somebody in New Jersey. And they list a lot of people on their websites, of dealers, but to see drums and to actually check out drums is very difficult.
Well, I don't think the big box stores even have a large selection of Sonor anymore.
No, I don't. I don't know. I try not to go into those places. I don't really shop the big box stores at all.
Well, I mean, even online, we're normally, you'd think they'd have everything under the sun, just to have all the bases covered. But, even online, I just don't see a lot on there.
All right.
Is the United States their biggest market, Sonor's biggest market?
No. No, not at all. Europe and Japan is big.
I didn't realize Japan was a big market. I did know they did
Japan's
all those.
Huge. Japan was one of the biggest. The Japanese love Sonor drums.
I did not know that.
And their distributor would custom order 50 to 100 snare drums at a time.
Now, I did know that they would have, phonic reissue snare drums and all that you weren't getting here.
Yeah, they used to order rosewood kits. Still were ordering rosewood kits when I worked at Sonor. Phonic rosewood kits. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
So what else about Sonor can we talk about?
Well, I'm interested to see what their next step is after SQ2.
Do you think it'll be a while before we see?
The vintage stuff. Now, the vintage stuff happened since SQ2. And I don't know if they'll expand on the vintage stuff or not. I mean, I think they could probably sell a fair amount of jazz kits with an 18-inch bass drum in a vintage setup.
Now, is vintage full production or is that limited run stuff?
No, I think it's full production.
I got a friend that's got a set. It's a beautiful set. Sounds great too.
Yeah, I'm looking to get one to use with that band I'm with, actually.
Well, good. Keep me posted on that. I'd like to see what you come up with when you get it.
I will. I think Sonor will always focus on keeping the artist and his desires and the musician's desires in the forefront of their product development. Being Germans, they always depend and are very interested in the best and most efficient engineering that they can come up with. So if there's new manufacturing procedures and new materials that come available that can be used in the drum industry, they're on top of that. They search out other industries to make their drums compatible with what's going on in the world today. So that may change sounds for drums in the future for Sonor. Who knows? But I think, I'm excited to see what the next step is from SQ2 for them. I mean, it's hard to top SQ2, but they top Signature.
I was fixing to say they've always managed to,
They come up with something and I think the reason is they've got it comes down from the top, and I think Karl Heinz got his finger on the pulse of what's really going on in manufacturing, music, artists, the whole ball of wax. So, I mean, I think in the next year or two, something's going to happen with Sonor for sure. The vintage thing, I think, was a reaction from Karl to satisfy a lot of Beechwood fans and capture some of the nostalgia of vintage drums. which was a perfect combination. It's a perfect combination.
Yeah. Well,
So, I mean, I think they'll come up with something for sure. And, and God bless the artists they have. The guys that have been with them forever, they're major contributors to the industry and to Sonor and to all of us drummers that, love Sonor.
mm-hmm. Well, Buz, as always, it's been a pleasure, sir. And we'll do this again soon as I can think up another topic for us to discuss.
Sounds good.
Hey, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too, Julian. Thanks for calling.
Yes, sir. Talk to you soon.
Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.